Everyone at my brother's engagement party thought I was the family disappointment. The quiet, forgettable little brother who got invited out of obligation. My brother thought that. His fiancée thought that. My parents definitely thought that. What none of them knew was that I'd been watching them for weeks. I knew exactly what his fiancée was planning. And tonight, in front of 100 of their closest friends, I was going to let her walk right into the trap I'd built for her. But before I tell you about that night, I need to take you back to the dinner where I confirmed everything. The Sunday dinner that my family thought broke me. But really, it's the night I decided to end them. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 32. And every Sunday, my mother hosts a family dinner that she calls a tradition, but honestly feels more like a performance review. The star of the show has always been my older brother Marcus. Good-looking, charming, the kind of guy who walks into a room and everyone just gravitates toward him. He sells luxury real estate. He drives a car that costs more than most people's houses. And our parents worship the ground he walks on. Me? I'm the other one. The quiet one. The one who sits at the end of the table and picks at his foot while everyone else celebrates Marcus's latest sale or his newest vacation, or whatever it is this week. I run a data analytics company called Aurelia. Built it from scratch. But to my family, I'm just a guy who types on computers. Now, here's what you need to understand. 2 weeks before this dinner, my security system flagged something unusual. Someone had been probing our servers. Not casually browsing, but actively trying to find cracks in our firewall. When I traced the source, it came back to a venture capital fund called Northbridge Capital. I logged it, set up monitoring, and filed it away. So when Marcus showed up to Sunday dinner with his new serious girlfriend and introduced her as Vivian, a director at Northbridge Capital, my heart didn't skip a beat. It stopped. I sat there, smiling politely, shaking her hand, and in that moment, every alarm in my head was going off at once. This was not a coincidence. This woman was not here because she loved my brother. She was here because of me. But I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just sat down, picked up my fork, and played the part they all expected me to play. Dinner orbited around Marcus, like it always does. His new listing, his trip to Aspen, his whatever. I was invisible, which was fine. I needed to be invisible. I needed to watch. And then Vivian turned to me. So, Marcus tells me you're a programmer, Ethan, she said. And the way she said programmer, like she was describing someone who fixes copy machines for a living, I almost admired how calculated it was. She wasn't making small talk. She was running reconnaissance in real time, right there at my mother's dining table. I'm a data scientist, I said. I run my own. She cut me off with this tinkling little laugh. Oh, that's adorable. You have your own little spreadsheet company. It's so sweet that you have a hobby that pays the bills. The whole table laughed. Not mean, cruel laughter. Worse. The dismissive, patronizing kind. Like I was a child who'd just shown them a drawing and they were all saying, "Oh, how nice, sweetie," before going back to their adult conversation. Marcus draped his arm over Vivian and grinned. He's a firecracker, isn't she? My mother chimed in with that voice she uses when she's pretending to care. Ethan, dear, we just worry. That world is so unstable. Not like Marcus's work. Solid. Tangible. Then my father cleared his throat. When my father clears his throat, it means a verdict is coming. Your brother builds things, Ethan. He deals with people, with real assets. You sit in a dark room and type. We just want you to have a secure future. Every word, a carefully placed brick in a wall they'd been building around me for 30 years. And here's the thing. Even knowing what I knew, even knowing that Vivian was a predator casing her next score, it still hurt. That's the part nobody tells you about toxic families. You can see the manipulation clear as day, and it still cuts. Because some small, stupid part of you is still that kid, hoping his dad will say, "I'm proud of you." But I swallowed it. I had a job to do. I tried something next. A test. I said, "Actually, I've been developing a forensic accounting AI. It's designed to detect sophisticated financial fraud." Vivian's eyes flickered. Just for a fraction of a second. But I caught it. Interest. Real, hungry interest. Then she covered it with a dismissive wave. Oh, honey, leave that to the big players. My firm is actually looking to acquire a small AI company right now. Real professionals. They have a brilliant algorithm that's going to change the game. She looked me up and down. It's a bit out of your league. She was talking about my company. She was sitting at my family's dinner table, eating my mother's roast chicken, and casually bragging about her plan to steal my life's work. And nobody at that table, not my brother, not my parents, had any idea. My father broke the silence. Ethan, don't be rude, he hissed. Stop making the family look bad. Stop making them look bad, not stand up for yourself. Not that's enough. Just shut up and don't embarrass us. I picked my fork back up. I didn't eat. I just sat there, cataloging everything. Every question she'd asked. Every technical detail she'd tried to fish out of me. Every smug little smile. They all laughed. And I laughed too. Quietly, on the inside. Because Vivian had just made the biggest mistake of her entire plan. She'd shown me her hand, and she had no idea I was already holding all the cards. I didn't go home that night. I drove straight to my office. A couple of rented rooms in an unassuming building on the east side of town. The official headquarters of Helios Analytics. It wasn't glamorous. It was a workspace for me and my co-founder Noah, and most nights it smelled like cold pizza and burnt coffee. Noah was exactly where I expected him to be. Hunched over a keyboard, 3 monitors glowing in front of him. He'd been my best friend since college. The only person in my life who never once looked at me and saw Marcus's weird little brother. He looked up as I walked in, read my face in about half a second. "Sunday dinner?" he said. "Sunday dinner," I confirmed. I dropped into the chair next to him. But this time it's different. Vivian works at Northbridge Capital. Noah went very still. Northbridge Capital. As in the Northbridge Capital that's been hammering our servers? The same. He leaned back slowly, processing it. So Marcus's new girlfriend just happens to work at the fund that's been trying to break into our system. And she just happens to show up at your family dinner asking about your work. It's not a coincidence, Noah. She targeted him. She researched the family, figured out the connection, and used Marcus as a way in. My brother is the front door, and she's been picking the lock. Noah let out a low whistle. Then he pulled up a file on his center monitor, our server access logs. Okay, so check this out. The probing I flagged 2 weeks ago, it's gotten way more aggressive. They're past the sniffing around phase. They're actively trying to access the source code directories. Blocked every time, but they're persistent. They're trying to steal the algorithm, I said. Vivian practically told me to my face. She said her fund was acquiring a brilliant AI company. She was talking about us, Noah. She was bragging about robbing us while eating my mother's pot roast. That's bold. That's arrogant. And arrogance makes people sloppy. I told him about the dinner in detail. Every question Vivian had asked. Every technical probe disguised as small talk. Noah listened, his expression getting darker by the minute. When I finished, he turned to me with that look he gets when he's about to say something important. You know, we're sitting on an 8-figure acquisition deal, right? Sterling Westwood Holdings is in final due diligence. If Northbridge Capital clones our algorithm before the deal closes, we lose everything. Not just the money, our reputation, our IP, years of work, gone. I know. So what's the play? And that's when I told him the part I hadn't told anyone. The part that had been forming in the back of my mind for weeks, ever since I first noticed Northbridge Capital sniffing around our servers. Remember that family barbecue last month? When I was talking to my cousin Caleb about the predictive modeling breakthrough, Noah nodded slowly. That wasn't an accident. I knew Caleb would talk. He's always trying to impress Marcus, the golden child's #1 fan. So I gave him just enough real information to sound credible, mixed with enough technical misdirection to send anyone who acted on it down a dead end. Noah stared at me. You used your own cousin as a leak on purpose. I used him as a canary in a coal mine. I needed to know if someone in my family was feeding information to the outside. And sure enough, within a week, Northbridge Capital's probing shifted. They started targeting the exact areas I'd described to Caleb. The fake ones. So Caleb told Marcus, Marcus told Vivian, and Vivian told her team exactly where to dig. Except they've been digging in the wrong place this whole time. Noah was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up another screen. Financial transaction records. I wasn't going to bring this up until I was sure, But since we're laying everything out, he pointed at a line item. Caleb received a $5,000 deposit from a shell company 2 weeks ago. I traced it back through 3 layers. It's Northbridge Capital money. I didn't even blink. I know. I saw it hit his Venmo that day after the barbecue. You already knew? I've known everything, Noah. Every move, every player, every dollar. The only thing I didn't know was Vivian's face. Now I have that too. Noah sat back and looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. So what do? We build a honeypot. We create a fake vulnerability in our demo server. Make it look like a backdoor into the source code. Irresistible bait for someone who thinks they're smarter than everyone. The moment they access it, we record everything. Keystrokes, screen activity, and audio through their microphone. We get Vivian on tape directing the theft. And then we wait for the engagement party. He raised an eyebrow. The engagement party. 100 guests. My whole family. All of Marcus and Vivian's most important friends and colleagues. And one very special attendee. Harrison, the CEO of Sterling Westwood Holdings. He's an old friend of my father's. He'll be there. You're going to play the evidence at the party, in front of everyone. I'm going to let Vivian destroy herself in front of everyone. All I have to do is press play. Noah was quiet again. Then a slow, fierce grin spread across his face. You terrifying, beautiful nerd. Let's build that honeypot. We spent the next 72 hours turning our office into a war room. The honeypot was elegant. A section of our demo server designed to look like a vulnerability, complete with breadcrumbs that would lead any hacker straight to it. But the moment they stepped inside, they were ours. Every click recorded, every word captured. We baited the hook by sending a routine system update to all demo users, mentioning a temporary relaxation of security protocols for maintenance. And then we waited. We didn't have to wait long. But Vivian wasn't done escalating. What she did next almost made me blow the whole operation. Not because it was smart, but because it was personal. 3 days before the engagement party, Vivian convinced my mother to host a family brunch. The purpose, supposedly, was to bring the family closer together before the big celebration. The real purpose became clear about 10 minutes in. We were sitting around my parents' kitchen table. Me, Marcus, Vivian, my parents, and my cousin Caleb, who couldn't look me in the eye. Vivian was glowing, playing the role of the perfect future daughter-in-law. And then she made her move. I've been thinking, she said, her voice sweet as antifreeze, about how wonderful it would be if Marcus and Ethan could work together. A partnership. Ethan has all this tech knowledge and Marcus has the business connections. Wouldn't it be amazing if they combined forces? My mother lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh, that's a beautiful idea. What Vivian was actually proposing, and everyone at the table was too charmed or too stupid to see it, was that I hand over my intellectual property, gift wrap my algorithm and hand it to Marcus, who would hand it to Vivian, who would hand it to Northbridge Capital. A family-friendly, hostile takeover. My father nodded like a judge delivering a ruling. That's sensible. Family should help family. I said carefully, I appreciate the thought, but my company's in a complicated phase right now. It's not really the right time for... My mother cut me off. The warmth vanished from her voice like someone flipped a switch. We have always supported Marcus because he's willing to share. He's a team player. You've always been selfish, Ethan, even as a child. Selfish. For building something on my own after they refused to help me. Selfish for not handing it over to the son they actually loved. Vivian delivered the kill shot. She turned to me with this look of exaggerated pity and said, I just think it's sad that Ethan would rather hoard his little project than help his own brother succeed. But I guess some people are just wired that way. I wanted to flip that table over. I wanted to pull out my phone and show them the server logs, the recordings, the $5,000 payment to Caleb. I wanted to watch Vivian's face crumble in real time. But I didn't. Because the party was 3 days away. And the audience at that party was worth 100 family brunches. So I took a breath. I looked down at my plate and I said quietly, You're right. I'll think about it. Vivian smiled. My parents beamed. Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. They thought they'd broken me. She thought she'd won. My family thought I'd caved. What none of them knew was that every keystroke, every whispered command, every late-night attempt to crack my firewall, I had all of it. Audio, video, TFMs. And in 3 days, 100 of their closest friends were going to see every single second of it. The night of the engagement party, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror for a long time. Navy blue suit, clean shave, calm eyes. I looked like a man going to a celebration. I was a man going to a demolition. I arrived fashionably late. The ballroom was exactly what you'd expect from my family. Over the top. Crystal chandeliers, towering flower arrangements that probably cost more than my first car. A string quartet playing something soft and forgettable. A giant screen behind the stage cycled through a slideshow of Marcus and Vivian. Perfect smiles. Exotic vacations. A live curated for an audience. 100 people filled the room. Business associates, family friends, people who mattered to my parents' social standing. Everyone dressed sharp. Everyone murmuring polite things about what a beautiful couple they made. It was a room built on appearances, and tonight, I was going to tear every single one of them down. My mother spotted me first. She gave me a tight little wave from across the room. The kind you give a neighbor you don't particularly like, but have to acknowledge. Her eyes were already scanning past me for someone more important to talk to. My father was holding court near the bar, shaking hands, laughing too loud. Classic Richard Miller. Power networking. It didn't take long for the happy couple to find me. Marcus swaggered over with a champagne glass in one hand and Vivian attached to his other arm like a designer accessory. "There he is!" he boomed, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to rattle my teeth. "Glad you could make it, little brother." For a second I thought you might be too busy with your you-know. He waved his hand vaguely, like my entire career was too abstract for him to grasp. Vivian smiled at me, venomously sweet. "We were just talking about you, Ethan. I was telling Marcus how impressed I am with your dedication. It's so rare to see someone so passionate about their little project. 3 days ago, that would have been debate. She wanted me flustered. She wanted the awkward little brother to stammer and retreat. But I wasn't that person anymore. I'm not sure I ever was." I smiled back. Warm, genuine, completely in control. "Thanks, Vivian. Actually, my little project is about to have a very big week. I can't wait to see what the future holds." Something shifted behind her eyes. A flicker of confusion. That wasn't the script. I wasn't supposed to be confident. I wasn't supposed to look like I knew something she didn't. Before she could recalibrate, a man with silver hair and an aura of quiet authority approached our group. My pulse ticked up exactly 1 notch. Harrison. Right on time. My father practically jogged over, his face stretched into that sycophantic grin he reserves for people who are richer than him. "Harrison, so glad you could make it. You know, my son Marcus, of course. And this is his brilliant fiancée, Vivian." Harrison shook their hands politely. Then his eyes landed on me. A pause. A flicker of recognition from our video calls. "And this is our other son, Ethan," my father added. Almost an afterthought. Like mentioning the side salads nobody ordered, Harrison extended his hand. His grip was firm and warm and full of meaning. "Ethan, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. We are all incredibly excited about the work you've been doing." Silence. The confused kind. Marcus frowned. Vivian's smile went rigid at the edges. My father looked like someone had just spoken to him in a foreign language. "You two know each other?" My father managed. "In a manner of speaking," Harrison said smoothly. "Ethan is something of a legend in our R&D department." Vivian recovered fast. I'll give her that. She jumped in with a light laugh, trying to steer the moment. "Oh, Ethan is just full of surprises. I hope one day your company gets noticed by a big fund like mine. You just have to keep dreaming, right?" That was the line. The final, arrogant jab. The last time she would ever look down at me. I gave her a serene smile. "You know, Vivian," I said, just loud enough for our little group to hear, "I think you're going to be very interested in what happens next." On stage, the MC tapped the microphone. It was time for the toasts. Marcus, never one to miss a chance to talk about himself, gave a short speech. He thanked everyone, praised Vivian like she'd cured cancer, and then, with a smug grin that I will remember for the rest of my life, he called me up to the stage. "And now I'd like to invite my little brother Ethan to say a few words." "Come on up, Ethan. Don't be shy." Polite applause. Every eye in the room turned to me. It was a power play. He wanted the quiet, bumbling brother up there as a contrast to his own dazzling success. He wanted me to say something awkward, get a few sympathetic laughs, and fade back into the wallpaper. Marcus grabbed the mic and called me up to the stage. He wanted me to play the role of the awkward little brother one last time. He had no idea he was handing me the detonator. I walked up. My heart was a steady, cold drum. I felt the small remote in my jacket pocket. Cool, solid, ready. I adjusted the microphone. The room went quiet. "Thank you, Marcus," I said. My voice was calm, clearer than it had ever been. I don't have a long speech prepared. I've always believed that actions speak louder than words. And lately, I've been made aware of some very interesting actions. I looked directly at Vivian. Front row. Still smiling, but the smile was starting to crack at the edges, like ice over a river that's moving too fast underneath. Vivian, in particular, has shown a remarkable interest in the world of forensic accounting AI. He's been so curious about my little project. So instead of a toast, I thought I'd share a bit of that project with all of you tonight. I pressed the button. The romantic slideshow vanished. In its place, a screen recording appeared. Date and timestamp in the corner. 2 nights ago. A user logged into Northbridge Capital's network. The mouse moving frantically across the screen, navigating file directories, hammering at firewall barriers. My honeypot, wide open and waiting. A collective gasp rippled through the room. And then came the audio. Crystal clear through the ballroom's sound system. Vivian's voice, sharp, unmistakable, impossible to deny. "Come on, find the core algorithm. We just need the source code and we can build our own clone. By the time we launch, the little accounting nerd who built this will never know what hit him." The room went so silent, I could hear the ice settling in someone's glass 30 feet away. Vivian's face drained of color. Not slowly. All at once, like someone had pulled a plug. She looked like she'd been turned to stone. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No sound came out. The video kept playing. It showed her directing a small team, barking orders, pointing at my stolen file structure on screen. It captured her frustration when certain directories wouldn't open. It recorded her greed, her contempt, her absolute certainty that the little accounting nerd would never fight back. Marcus stared at the screen, then at Vivian, then back at the screen. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked a lot like horror. When the recording ended, I let the silence sit. I let the last echo of Vivian's voice, "We'll never know what hit him," hang in the air like smoke. Then I turned back to the microphone. "The little accounting nerd she's referring to, that's me." My voice rang across the ballroom. "The company she was trying to steal from? Helios Analytics. That's my company. I built it. From scratch. Without a dollar of help from anyone in this room." I paused. Let that land. "And there's one more thing." I looked at Harrison, who was watching the scene with a grim, focused expression. Then I turned my gaze back to Vivian. "You said your fund was looking to acquire a brilliant AI company. You were right to be interested. Sterling Westwood Holdings, Mr. Harrison's company finalized that acquisition this morning." Another ripple through the crowd. Harrison gave a single, slow nod. "As part of that deal, I've accepted a new role leading their AI innovation division." I looked directly into Vivian's eyes. "So, in a way, Vivian, you were right about my work. Your fund is very interested in it. The difference is, as of tomorrow morning, I'm your boss's boss." Vivian lunged. She actually lunged toward the stage, one hand reaching for the remote, the other pushing past a stunned guest. "Turn it off," she screamed. "He's lying. This is fabricated." Marcus caught her arm and pulled her back, but not gently, not protectively. More like a man trying to distance himself from something toxic. He shook her off and stepped away, his face a mask of disgust and public humiliation. Harrison stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room was already hanging on every breath. He looked at me and said simply, "That was unorthodox. But the evidence speaks for itself." A woman with a severe haircut near the back, I'd later learn she was Vivian's managing director, was already on her phone, speaking in low, rapid tones. The kind of call that ends careers. Harrison gave me a final nod. Not just acknowledgement, respect. Then he walked out, leaving a trail of quiet authority behind him. Vivian stood in the middle of the ballroom, mascara starting to run, surrounded by people who were already looking away. She turned in a slow circle, searching for an ally, a defender, anyone. She found no one. She grabbed her clutch and fled through the side exit, heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown reaching zero. My parents sat frozen in the front row. My mother's hand was pressed over her mouth. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 90 seconds. And Marcus. Marcus just stood there, pale and hollow, staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. He wasn't looking at his failure of a little brother anymore. He was looking at the man who had just detonated his entire world. And for the first time in 32 years, he had absolutely nothing to say. I almost made it to my car. They caught me in the parking garage. A desperate, broken little delegation. My father, my mother, and Marcus. Their footsteps echoed off the concrete walls like a countdown. Ethan, wait! My father's voice bounced around the empty space. It sounded smaller out here, away from the ballroom, away from the audience he performed for. I stopped walking, but I didn't turn around. I just stood there, keys in my hand, and waited. You can't just walk away, my mother said. Her voice was shaking. Not with sadness, but with fury. The kind of anger that comes from losing control. You have embarrassed this family in a way I never thought possible. You humiliated your brother. You destroyed his future. In front of everyone. I turned around slowly. The garage lights were harsh and unflattering. They cast long shadows and stripped away all the polish. No chandeliers out here. No string quartet. Just three people who looked smaller and older than I'd ever seen them. Vivian was stealing my work, I said, my voice level. She was going to clone my algorithm and destroy my company. Did you hear that part? Or were you too focused on the social embarrassment? My father's jaw tightened. She was ambitious. Maybe she went too far. But you handled this with no class. You aired our dirty laundry in public like some kind of... It stopped being our laundry the moment you chose her over me, I said. It stopped being our laundry every time you praised Marcus for breathing and dismissed me for succeeding. You didn't want a son. You wanted a mirror, and when I wasn't your reflection, you tried to erase me. Marcus stepped forward. He looked wrecked, tie loosened, eyes wild. The golden boy tarnish showing through for the first time. You could have just told me, Ethan. You could have pulled me aside, shown me the evidence. We could have dealt with this privately. A divorce would have been less messy than what you just did. I actually laughed. A real laugh. Told you. Told the man who laughed the loudest when his fiancée called my life's work adorable.
You wouldn't have listened, Marcus.
You never listen. You just wait for your turn to talk. That's not fair. Fair? The word tasted like rust. You want to talk about fair? 5 years ago, I asked Dad for $20,000 to build a prototype. A seed investment. He said no, too risky. A computer fantasy. 2 weeks later, he bought you a BMW for being salesman of the month. $20,000 would have been a rounding error on that car. My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I built Aurelia with nothing. 2 jobs, no sleep, no support. And when it started to work, when it started to actually become something, you know what happened? You introduced me to a woman who was planning to steal it. And you all sat there and watched her mock me, and you laughed along. A heavy silence fell between us. My mother's eyes were wet, but they were tears of frustration, not remorse. She wasn't crying because she was sorry. She was crying because she'd lost. And then it came out. The thing she'd been holding back all night. We invested everything in Marcus, she said, her voice cracking. Your father and I. Our savings, our retirement. We put it all into his real estate ventures because we thought he was the sure thing. And now it's gone. All of it. The market turned, and it's all gone. The words landed between us like a block of ice. So that was it. That was the math behind 30 years of favoritism. Marcus wasn't the favorite because they loved him more. He was the favorite because they'd bet on him. Their entire financial future, their retirement, their legacy, was riding on Marcus being the winner. I was the forgotten savings bond, collecting dust in a drawer, while they poured everything into their high-yield, high-risk golden child. And their investment had just crashed. I see. I said softly. That explains a lot, actually. So are you going to help us or not? My father demanded. Even now, even standing in a parking garage with his world in pieces, the man couldn't ask. He could only demand. No, I said. I'm not. My mother made a sound like she'd been slapped. But I will give you one thing, I continued. The truth. I looked at each of them, one at a time. My father, stiff and defiant. My mother, trembling with a rage she'd never admit was actually fear. Marcus, hollowed out, searching my face for the brother he thought he knew. I want you to know something, I said. At that barbecue, when Caleb told Marcus about my project, I let him. I've known what Vivian was doing for weeks. Every dinner, every insult, every time you laughed at me, I was already 10 steps ahead. I just needed you all to keep being exactly who you are. I paused. And you didn't disappoint. The silence that followed was different from any silence I'd ever shared with my family. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't tense. It was the sound of people realizing they had never known someone they'd lived with for 3 decades. It was the sound of a story being rewritten in real time. My mother whispered, "You planned this? All of it?" I protected myself, I corrected her, because nobody else was going to. I unlocked my car, opened the door. Then I stopped and said one last thing, not out of cruelty, but out of a calm, final honesty. I'm done being your disappointment. I'm done being the backup plan. And I'm done needing your permission to be proud of what I built. I got in. Started the engine, pulled out of the space. In my rearview mirror, I watched them shrink. 3 people who had spent 30 years underestimating me, finally realizing they never knew me at all. I drove for a long time that night. No destination, just motion. The city lights blurred past the windows, and for the first time in my life, the silence in the car didn't feel lonely. It felt like space, like room to breathe. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new office at Sterling Westwood Holdings, Vice President of AI Innovation. I have a team that challenges me, a boss who respects me, and work that actually matters. We're building tools that detect fraud before it happens. My little spreadsheet company is changing the game. I haven't spoken to my family since that night in the parking garage. I hear things sometimes. Through the grapevine, Marcus lost most of his clients. Vivian is facing a civil lawsuit from Sterling Westwood Holdings. Caleb left town. My parents are seeing a financial advisor about their retirement. Or what's left of it. I don't celebrate any of it. I don't feel satisfaction when I hear bad news about them. I just feel quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm passes and you realize you're still standing. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If there was a version of this where I could have protected my company without blowing up my family, maybe there was. But that version required them to see me as someone worth protecting in the first place. And they never did. Not until I forced them to. I'm not telling you this story because I want you to think I'm a hero. I'm telling you because for 32 years, I was the person in the room that everybody underestimated. The quiet one. The forgettable one. The one they talked over and laughed at and dismissed. And if you're that person right now, if you're sitting at someone else's table, shrinking yourself so they can feel big, I need you to hear this. You don't have to stay small. You don't have to wait for their permission. And you sure as hell don't have to play by their rules. Sometimes the only way to win is to flip the whole board over and walk away. I did. And I've never looked back. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole story. It means more than you know. Now I want to hear from you, because I know I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. Was I right to expose Vivian at the party? Or should I have handled it privately and kept the family peace? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think I did the right thing. Drop a 2 if you think I went too far. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you've ever been the underestimated one in your family, the one who got overlooked while someone else got all the praise, tell me your story. I want to hear it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear what happened next. Because trust me, this wasn't the last I heard from my family. Not by a long shot.